The old cargo ship moved slowly through the dark space between stars. Its metal hull was covered with scratches and rust spots. Anyone looking at it would think it was just another broken human ship trying to make money by carrying goods from one planet to another. Captain Hansol Kim sat in his chair on the bridge. He was a man in his 40s with gray hair at his temples and tired eyes. His uniform was clean but old. The patches on his sleeves showed he had been a military officer once, but that was long ago. Now he was just another trader trying to survive, in a galaxy that did not like humans very much. "Sir, we are getting close to the Kalari border," said Sojin Lee from her seat at the navigation controls. She was young, maybe 25, with short black hair and quick fingers that danced over her computer screens. Her voice was calm, but Kim could hear the worry underneath. Kim nodded. "Good. Stay on course. We need to deliver these supplies to New Busan." Behind them, Haiwan Park worked at the engineering station. She was a quiet woman with clever eyes who rarely spoke unless someone asked her a direct question. Her hands moved over the controls like a musician playing an instrument. The ship's engines hummed smoothly under her care. "Captain?" called Jin Woo Nam from the communications desk. He was a nervous man who jumped at every sound. "I am picking up 3 ships on the sensors. They are moving toward us fast." Kim felt his stomach tighten, but he kept his face calm. "What kind of ships?" "Kalari patrol vessels, sir. They are big ones." The Kalari were the strongest military force in this part of the galaxy. Their ships were huge and powerful. They had won the Great Expansion War 50 years ago and pushed humanity back to the edge of space. Most aliens thought humans were weak and stupid now. The Kalari especially enjoyed reminding humans of their place. "Open a channel," Kim said. His voice sounded tired and defeated. The main screen flickered to life. A tall alien face appeared. The Kalari looked like a cross between a lizard and a bird. This one had purple scales and yellow eyes that glowed with cruel intelligence. Golden symbols on his collar showed he was a commander. "Human vessel, this is Commander Zethvas of the Kalari Defense Force. You are in restricted space. Stop your engines and prepare to be boarded." Kim stood up slowly like an old man with sore bones. "Commander, we are just carrying farm supplies to New Busan Colony. We have all the proper papers." The alien laughed. It was a harsh sound like breaking glass. "Papers? You humans always talk about papers. We will see what you are really carrying. If you try to run, we will destroy you." The screen went dark. Kim sat back down and rubbed his face with both hands. "What do we do, Captain?" asked Lee. "We let them board us," Kim said. "We have nothing to hide." Park looked up from her station. Her eyes met Kim's for just a moment. "Should I activate the Aurora Protocol?" she asked quietly. Kim's tired expression changed. For just a second, his eyes became hard as steel. "Not yet. Let them think we are just another broken human ship." Dr. Yoon Seo Choi walked onto the bridge. She was the ship's medical officer, a woman in her 30s with an intelligent face and steady hands. She moved like someone who had been a soldier once. "How long until they reach us?" she asked. 5 minutes, said Nam, his voice shaking. The 3 Kalari ships were getting bigger on the screen. They were sleek and dangerous, painted in the dark red colors of the Kalari military. Each one was 3 times the size of the human cargo ship. Their weapons were already pointing at the eternal dawn. Kim watched them approach. These aliens thought they knew everything about humans. They thought humans were weak because they had lost a war 50 years ago. They thought human technology was old and useless. They were wrong about many things. "Remember," Kim said to his crew, "we are just traders. We are scared and trying to make a living, nothing more." The ship shook as the Kalari vessels fired magnetic hooks that pulled the Eternal Dawn close to their largest ship. Kim could hear the sound of metal cutting through metal as the aliens cut a hole in his cargo bay door. "They are coming aboard," reported Nam. Heavy footsteps echoed through the ship. The Kalari soldiers wore thick armor and carried weapons that could burn through steel. They moved through the cargo hold like they owned it. Commander Zeth Voss appeared on the bridge a few minutes later. He was even bigger in person, nearly 7 feet tall. His armor was decorated with symbols showing how many human ships he had captured. "So," he said, looking around the bridge with disgust. "This is what human technology looks like. No wonder you lost the war." Kim stood up and bowed his head. "Commander, we are just carrying food and farm equipment. You can check our cargo manifest." "Oh, we will check everything," the alien said. He pointed at 2 of his soldiers. "Search every room. I want to know what these humans are really doing out here." The soldiers spread out through the ship. Kim could hear them opening doors and moving boxes around in the cargo hold. One of them was asking Park questions about the engine room. "Your ship is very old," Zethva said to Kim. "Why do you not buy a new one?" "We cannot afford it, sir. The war left us poor." "Yes, it did." The alien smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "And that is how it should be. Humans need to remember their place." Lee looked up from her navigation station. Her face was pale. "Captain, I am detecting more ships approaching our position." Zethvas turned to look at her screen. His smile grew wider. Perfect timing. Admiral Veltak Moore has arrived with the 3rd Battle Fleet." Kim felt his blood turn cold. Admiral Moore was famous throughout the galaxy. He was the Kalari officer who had destroyed the human colony at Titan 7. He commanded over 200 ships, including 3 planet-killer dreadnoughts. "The Admiral wants to make an example of human smugglers," Zethvas continued. "He is going to broadcast your execution across the galaxy. Every species will see what happens to those who break." Kalerilo. Through the main viewing window, Kim could see new ships appearing in space. They were massive beyond belief. The smallest ones were bigger than anything humans had built during the war. The largest, Admiral Moore's flagship, was the size of a small moon. Dr. Choi moved closer to Kim. She whispered something in his ear that the aliens could not hear. Kim's expression did not change, but his hands stopped shaking. "Commander," Kim said, "may I ask for mercy? We have families waiting for us." Zethvas laughed again. "You can ask. The Admiral might even let you say goodbye before he kills you." The alien ships kept coming. Soon there were dozens of them, then hundreds. They formed a perfect circle around the tiny human cargo ship. Their weapons were all pointed inward. There was no escape. Kim looked at his crew. Park was still working at her station, her fingers moving in patterns that looked random but were not. Lee was studying her navigation screens with the intensity of someone solving a puzzle. Nam appeared terrified, but his hands were steady on his controls. Dr. Choi stood beside Kim's chair, calm and ready. "Sir," Lee said quietly, "I count 215 ships, 3 dreadnoughts, 47 cruisers, and the rest are destroyers and frigates." "Thank you," Kim replied. He sounded like a man accepting his death, but inside he was counting down. The pieces were almost in place. The trap was almost ready. Soon the galaxy would learn the truth about humans. Soon, Admiral Moore would discover that some prey bites back. The eternal dawn drifted silently in space, surrounded by enough firepower to destroy a solar system. To the aliens, it looked helpless and defeated. They had no idea what was coming. Admiral Veltak Moore stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Galaxy's Fist. The massive dreadnought was 3 miles long and carried enough weapons to burn entire worlds. Around him, his officers worked at their stations, preparing for what they thought would be a simple execution. Moore was old for a Kalari. His purple scales faded to gray at the edges. Golden armor covered his chest, marked with the symbols of 100 victories. He had been fighting humans for 50 years, and he still remembered the taste of their defeat. "Status report," he commanded. "All ships are in position, Admiral," replied his tactical officer. "We have the human vessel completely surrounded. There is no escape." Moore smiled. "Good. Begin the broadcast. I want every species in the galaxy to see this." On the small human ship, Kim and his crew watched as more Kalari soldiers searched their cargo hold. The aliens were rough with everything they touched, throwing boxes around and breaking open containers. "What is this?" one soldier called out. He was holding a metallic cylinder about the size of a small barrel. Commander Zethvas walked over to examine it. Looks like an energy cell of some kind. Very advanced for human technology. It is just a power source for our farming equipment, Kim said quickly. Nothing special. The alien ran a scanner over the cylinder. The device beeped and showed numbers. That made Zethvas frown. This energy signature is very unusual. We will confiscate it for further study. Please, Commander. We need that equipment to make a living. You should have thought of that before entering restricted space. Zethvas waved to his soldiers. Take all of these cylinders, mark them as contraband. The soldiers began loading the cylinders onto their ship. There were 20 of them in total, each one carefully packed in a protective case. Kim watched them go with the expression of a man losing his last hope. Dr. Choi moved to Kim's side. She spoke so quietly that only he could hear her. They have no idea they just cataloged the most dangerous technology in the galaxy. Kim nodded slightly. His face still looked defeated, but his eyes were calculating. The bridge speakers crackled to life. Admiral Moore's voice filled the room, cold and commanding. Human Captain, you will answer for your crimes against the Kalari Empire. Prepare to face justice. Admiral, Kim replied, his voice shaking. We are just simple traders. We meant no. Armed by ignorance is not an excuse. You entered forbidden space. You carried illegal technology. For these crimes, you will die. Commander Zethvas looked pleased. Admiral Moore enjoys making examples of lawbreakers. He will probably let you broadcast a final message so other humans can learn from your mistake. Kim straightened up. May I request permission to address the fleet? I want to formally surrender and apologize for our actions. Moore's laughter came through the speakers. How pathetic. Yes, human. You may grovel before you die. Perhaps it will amuse my crew. Thank you, Admiral. The communication channel opened to include all ships in the fleet. Kim was now speaking to over 50,000 Kalari soldiers and officers. His image appeared on screens throughout the massive armada. Great Admiral Moore, commanders and soldiers of the Kalari Empire, Kim began. His voice was humble and respectful. My name is Captain Hansol Kim of the human vessel Eternal Dawn. I stand before you to confess our crimes and beg for mercy. On the Kalari ship, soldiers laughed and pointed at their screens. Here was proof of human weakness. Here was why they had lost the war. We are a poor people, Kim continued. The war left us with little. We turned to smuggling because we have no other choice. We know this is wrong, but we have families to feed. Admiral Moore interrupted. Your excuses bore me, human. Get to the point. Of course, Admiral. I want to apologize personally to every ship in your magnificent fleet, to the crew of the Starfire, with their impressive Type 7 shield generators, to the warriors aboard the Bloodstorm, with their new plasma cannons, to the gunners of the Deathclaw whose targeting systems can hit a target from 200,000 kilometers away. On the Kalari ships, officers began to look uncomfortable. How did this human know so much about their equipment? Kim kept talking. I especially want to apologize to the brave crew of the Galaxy's Fist. Your ship carries 48 heavy guns, 12 torpedo tubes, and shield generators powerful enough to stop a small asteroid. Your crew numbers exactly 3,412 beings. Admiral Moore's eyes widened. That crew number was classified information. Only a few high-ranking officers knew it. To the destroyer Nightwind, Kim continued, with your experimental stealth technology. To the cruiser Voidcutter, testing the new quantum torpedoes. To the supply ship Cargo Master, carrying ammunition that could level a city. The aliens were no longer laughing. Kim was describing weapons and systems that were supposed to be top secret. He knew their shield frequencies, their weapon capacities, even the names of their commanding officers. How? Whispered Commander Zethvas. How does he know these things? Dr. Choi smiled for the first time since the aliens had boarded. Because we have been watching you for 50 years. On the Galaxy's Fist, Admiral Moore was getting angry and frightened at the same time. Enough! How do you know this information? Kim's expression began to change. The fear was leaving his face. The humble posture was straightening. When he spoke again, his voice was different. Stronger, more confident. Because, Admiral, Humans are very good at learning. We spent 50 years studying every ship in your fleet. We know your tactics, your weaknesses, your fears. We know because we have been preparing for this moment. Officer Nam touched his controls. To the aliens, it looked like he was just sending a standard surrender code. But something else was happening. The Eternal Dawn's hull began to shimmer like water. Park's fingers moved over her engineering console in a complex pattern. Deep inside the ship, systems that had been dormant for decades began to wake up. The rusty old cargo hauler was changing. "What are you doing?" Zethvos demanded. "Something we should have done 50 years ago," Kim replied. The ship's lights flickered and changed color. The hull plating shifted and moved. What had looked like rust and damage was revealed to be sophisticated camouflage. The Eternal Dawn was shedding its disguise like a snake shedding its skin. Lee looked up from her navigation station. "Captain, all systems are coming online. The Aurora protocol is ready for activation." Kim nodded. "Good. Dr. Choi, please explain to our guests what they have walked into." Dr. Choi turned to the shocked Kalari soldiers. "Those energy cylinders your people just confiscated? They were not power sources for farming equipment. They were containment units for temporal quantum displacement technology. By scanning them and logging their energy signatures, your computers have just uploaded the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy." "Impossible," Zethvos said. "Humans do not have that kind of technology." "We did not have it 50 years ago," Kim agreed. "But we have been busy since then. While you were celebrating your victory, we were learning. While you were building bigger ships, we were building something better." The bridge lights changed from normal white to a deep blue glow. The sound of the engines changed too, becoming a low humming that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "All hands," announced Dr. Choi over the ship's speakers. "Prepare for dimensional shift. The Aurora protocol is now active." Through the viewing windows, the Kalari fleet looked enormous and threatening. 200 ships armed with enough firepower to destroy planets. But Kim was no longer afraid. He had been waiting for this moment his entire life. "Admiral Moore," he said into the communication channel. "You wanted to make an example of humans. Consider your wish granted. But I think you will find that we are not the example you expected." The Eternal Dawn began to glow with a light that hurt alien eyes to look at. The ship's true nature was finally being revealed, and it was nothing like what the Kalari had imagined. The hunt was about to become something very different. The light from the Eternal Dawn grew brighter. On Kalari ships throughout the fleet, sensor operators stared at their screens in confusion. The readings made no sense. According to their instruments, the human ship was somehow existing in multiple places at the same time. Admiral Moore gripped the rail of his command platform. "What is happening? Report!" "Sir," called his tactical officer, "the human vessel is showing impossible energy readings. Our computers cannot identify the source. Are they preparing to self-destruct?" "Unknown, Admiral. The energy signature is unlike anything in our database." On the Eternal Dawn, Kim walked to the center of the bridge. The blue glow was getting stronger, and the air itself seemed to be humming with power. His crew worked at their stations with practiced efficiency. "Mr. Nam, broadcast this message on all frequencies," Kim ordered. "I want every species in the galaxy to hear what comes next." Nam's nervous expression had disappeared. His hands moved over his controls with surprising skill. "All channels open, Captain. We are transmitting across 37 different networks." Kim began to speak, but his voice was no longer that of a defeated traitor. This was the voice of a commander who had been preparing for war his entire life. "Citizens of the galaxy, my name is Captain Han Sol Kim of the Human Defense Force. What you are about to witness is not an execution. It is a demonstration." He paused, letting his words sink in across thousands of worlds. 50 years ago, humanity lost the Great Expansion War. We retreated to the edge of space, and you thought we were defeated. You thought we were weak. You were wrong. The glow around the Eternal Dawn suddenly expanded. For a moment it was so bright that every ship in the Kalari fleet had to adjust their viewing screens. When the light faded, Something impossible had happened. The single human ship had become dozens of ships. They hung in space around the Kalari fleet like ghosts made of metal and energy. Impossible, Admiral Moore shouted. Holographic projections. They are trying to confuse us with illusions. But his sensor officer was shaking his head. Sir, each ship is showing up as a solid contact. These are not holograms. According to our scanners, there are now 47 human vessels surrounding our fleet. Kim's voice continued across the communication channels. Admiral Moore, you asked how we knew so much about your ships. The answer is simple. We have been watching you for 50 years. Every battle you fought, every ship you built, every tactic you used. We studied all of it. More human ships were appearing. The strange copying effect continued until there were over 100 vessels surrounding the Kalari Armada. Each one looked exactly like the Eternal Dawn, but they were all real. The Aurora Protocol, Dr. Choi explained to the terrified Kalari soldiers still on the bridge. Our ship exists in multiple dimensional phases simultaneously. What you see are not copies. They are all the same ship existing in different layers of reality. Commander Zeth Voss backed against the wall. This is impossible. No species has this technology. Humans do, Park said simply. She had stopped pretending to be just an engineer. Her fingers danced over controls that looked nothing like the simple cargo ship systems the aliens had seen before. We spent 50 years developing it while you thought we were broken and defeated. On the Galaxy's Fist, Admiral Moore was getting desperate. All ships open fire. Destroy them all. The Kalari fleet unleashed a storm of weapons fire. Plasma beams, missile volleys, and energy bolts filled the space between the ships. It was enough firepower to destroy a small moon. But something strange happened. The weapons passed through some of the human ships without effect, while others seemed to absorb the energy and grow brighter. The human vessels were not behaving like normal matter. Direct hit on Target 7, reported a Kalari gunner. No damage detected. Target 12 has vanished, called another. It was there then. It was not. New contacts appearing behind us, screamed a third. Lee looked up from her navigation station. Captain, dimensional positioning is stable. We can attack from any angle we choose. Begin the demonstration, Kim said calmly. What happened next would be talked about across the galaxy. For generations, the human ships did not attack with massive weapons or overwhelming force. Instead, they did something much more frightening. They began to appear inside the Kalari ships. On the destroyer Nightwind, crew members watched in horror as a section of their own hull simply opened up. A human vessel materialized in their cargo bay, as if it had always been there. Similar events were happening throughout the fleet. They are inside our shields, Admiral Moore's communications officer reported. How are they getting through our defenses? They are not getting through, Kim's voice answered. He was still broadcasting to the entire fleet. We are moving between the layers of space-time. Your shields protect you in 3 dimensions. We operate in 7. The human ships began their real attack. But instead of trying to destroy the Kalari vessels, they targeted specific systems. Weapons were disabled with surgical precision. Shield generators were carefully shut down. Engine systems were put into emergency stop mode. Sir, we have lost main weapons, reported the tactical officer on the Galaxy's Fist. Engines are offline, called the engineering station. Shields are down to 30% and falling. Admiral Moore could not believe what he was seeing. His mighty dreadnought, the pride of the Kalari fleet, was being taken apart piece by weapons that seemed to strike from inside the ship itself. How? He whispered. Dr. Choi's voice came through the communication channel. Admiral, you are fighting a war using the rules of normal space. We are not limited by those rules anymore. Across the fleet, Kalari ships were being systematically disabled. Not destroyed. Disabled. The humans were being very careful not to kill anyone. They were proving a point, not seeking revenge. This is not possible, Zeth Voss said again. He seemed unable to say anything else. 50 years ago, it was not possible, Kim agreed. But humans have one advantage that you never considered. We learn from our mistakes. Park touched another control, and the eternal dawn suddenly appeared directly in front of Admiral Moore's viewing window. The human ship was now enormous, easily the size of the dreadnought itself. Its hull glowed with the same blue energy that defied explanation. You see, Admiral, Kim continued, when we lost the war, we realized that we were fighting the wrong kind of battle. You have bigger ships, more weapons, larger armies, so we decided to change the rules. What do you want? Moore demanded. What we have always wanted. Peace. But not the kind of peace you forced on us 50 years ago. Real peace. The kind where strong species protect weak ones instead of conquering them. Around the disabled Kalari fleet, more human ships were appearing. But these were different. They were not copies of the Eternal Dawn. They were cargo vessels, passenger transports, mining ships, the entire human merchant fleet. Every human ship you have ever seen was equipped with Aurora technology, Dr. Choi explained. Every trader, every diplomat, every refugee. We have been hiding in plain sight for 50 years. The scope of the deception was staggering. The Kalari had thought they were dealing with a defeated species barely capable of interstellar travel. Instead, they had been surrounded by the most advanced military force in the galaxy. But we are not here to conquer, Kim said. We are here to offer you a choice. Join us in building a galaxy where might does not make right, where every species has the chance to grow and prosper. Admiral Moore looked around his bridge. His officers were staring at their screens in shock. His mighty fleet had been defeated without a single casualty. It was the most complete military victory he had ever witnessed. And if we refuse? He asked quietly. Kim's answer came without hesitation. Then you will discover that human patience has limits. The message was clear. Humanity was no longer the weak species that could be pushed around. They had become something new, something that could reshape the galaxy itself. The question now was what they would choose to do with that power. Admiral Moore sat in his command chair, surrounded by dead controls and silent weapons. His flagship, once the most powerful vessel in the galaxy, was now helpless. Around him, his officers worked frantically to restore even basic systems. Sir, his communications officer reported, we are receiving a transmission from the human captain. He is requesting a private channel. Put him through, Moore said. His voice was heavy with defeat. Kim's face appeared on the main screen. But something had changed about him. The tired trader was gone, replaced by someone who carried himself like a born leader. His eyes held the confidence of a man who had just rewritten the rules of warfare. Admiral, Kim said respectfully, I think it is time we had an honest conversation. You have my attention, human. My real name is Captain Hansol Kim, son of General Kyung-ho Yoon. Perhaps you remember him. Moore's blood ran cold. General Yoon had been the human commander who had almost won the Great Expansion War. He was the only enemy leader Moore had ever truly feared. Yoon is dead, Moore said. I killed him myself at the Battle of Titan 7. Yes, you did. But before he died, he gave me a message to deliver to you. Kim's expression became very serious. He said that humans do not start wars, but they always finish them. A new voice came through the communication channel. It was female, calm, and somehow familiar. Hello, Admiral Moore. This is Admiral So Young Yoon commanding the Human Defense Fleet. I believe you knew my father. Moore felt the years fall away. General Yoon had had a daughter, a young officer who had shown great promise before the war ended. Now she was speaking to him across space with the authority of someone who commanded vast forces. Impossible. He whispered. The human military was destroyed 50 years ago. No, Admiral, we went into hiding. Every human ship you destroyed, every colony you conquered, every family you scattered, we remembered all of it. And we planned. Kim took over the conversation again. Let me tell you a story, Admiral. After the war ended, my father came to a decision. Humans could not win by building bigger ships or more powerful weapons. You were too far ahead of us. So we chose a different path. The image on the screen changed. Instead of Kim's face, Moore was looking at historical footage from 50 years ago. He saw human colonies surrendering, human fleets retreating, human leaders signing peace agreements. It had all seemed so complete, so final. What you saw was real, Kim continued. We did lose the war. We did retreat. But we also did something else. We started the Aurora Project. New images appeared. Hidden construction facilities deep underground on remote worlds. Human scientists working in secret laboratories. The slow, careful development of technology that would have seemed like magic 50 years ago. The Aurora Project had one goal, Kim explained. To develop technology so advanced that no species would ever be able to threaten humanity again. Not by being stronger than everyone else, but by being so far ahead that war itself became pointless. Admiral Moore watched the images with growing understanding. The humans had not just been hiding for 50 years. They had been preparing. Every human trader you let pass through your space was gathering intelligence. Every diplomatic mission was mapping your defenses. Every refugee camp was a recruitment center for the most brilliant minds of our species. The scope of the deception was breathtaking. For 50 years, the Kalari had thought they were dealing with a broken people. Instead, they had been unknowingly helping to create their own defeat. The Aurora Protocol was the result, Kim said. Ships that exist in multiple dimensions. Weapons that can strike from impossible angles. Technology that makes your most advanced systems look like stone tools. Dr. Choi's voice joined the conversation. But the real secret was not the technology, Admiral. It was the people using it. The image changed again. Now Moore was looking at the bridge of the eternal dawn, but it was different from what he had seen before. The walls were covered with holographic displays showing star maps, fleet positions, and tactical analyses. The crew members he had thought were simple traders were revealed to be highly trained military officers. Everyone on this ship volunteered for the Aurora Project, Dr. Choi explained. We have spent our entire lives preparing for this moment. Navigator Lee can plot courses through 7 dimensions. Engineer Park can modify space-time itself. Communications. Officer Nam can hack into any computer system in the galaxy. And me? Kim asked with a slight smile. I was trained from birth to command humanity's ultimate weapon. Every nervous gesture you saw, every frightened response, it was all an act. We have been performing for you for 50 years. Admiral. Moore felt something he had not experienced in decades. Genuine fear. Not fear of death, but fear of the unknown. These humans had capabilities beyond his understanding. What do you want from us, he asked. What we have always wanted, Kim replied. Peace. But real peace this time. Not the peace of surrender, but the peace of mutual respect. And if we refuse? Kim's expression became sad. Then you will discover that we prepared for that possibility too. The main display changed to show a galactic map. Hundreds of red dots were appearing across known space, each one marking the position of a human ship. Every major trade route, every military installation, every populated system. We have been there, Admiral. We know your weaknesses because we helped create some of them. The computer systems you use? Humans designed them. The shield technology that protects your worlds? Human scientists made the breakthrough discoveries. The communication networks that connect your empire? We built them. The implications were staggering. If humans had been secretly involved in developing Kalari technology, for 50 years they would know exactly how to defeat it. You see, Admiral, we learned something important from losing the war. If you cannot beat an enemy's strength, you become part of their strength. Then when the time is right, you turn that strength against them. Officer Nam spoke up from his station. Admiral Moore, I am transmitting a data packet to your ship. Please review it carefully. Information began flowing across the screens on the galaxy's fist. It showed detailed plans for every major Kalari military operation of the past 50 years. Not just the plans, but the behind-the-scenes human involvement in making those plans successful. We helped you win your wars, Dr. Choi said simply. We provided the technology, the intelligence, and the strategic advice that made your empire possible. We did this because we needed you to trust us. We needed you to think we were helpless. But why? Moore demanded. Why help us become stronger if you plan to fight us eventually? Kim's answer was unexpected. Because we did not want to fight you at all. We wanted to save you. Save us from what? From yourselves. The path you were on, the path of endless conquest and domination, leads to only one place. Eventually you would have encountered a species stronger than you. Eventually you would have become the victims instead of the predators. Park looked up from her engineering console. Our long-range sensors have detected them, Admiral. The Devourer fleets, coming from the Galactic Edge. They will reach this sector in approximately 20 years. When they arrive, every species in this galaxy will need to work together to survive. The revelation hit Admiral Moore like a physical blow. There were threats out there that even the mighty Kalari could not face alone. We spent 50 years preparing for 2 wars, Kim explained. The war against oppression, which we just won, and the war for survival, which is still coming. We need allies for the second war, not enemies. So you offer us what? Partnership? We offer you evolution. The chance to become something better than what you are. The strong protecting the weak instead of devouring them. Knowledge shared instead of hoarded. Peace maintained through justice instead of fear. Admiral Moore looked around his bridge. His officers were listening to every word. Some looked skeptical, others thoughtful. A few seemed almost hopeful. And if we accept this offer? Kim smiled for the first time since the conversation began. Then, humanity will share everything we learned during our 50 years of preparation. The Aurora technology, the dimensional travel, the advanced weapons and defenses, all of it. You would give us the technology to fight you? Admiral, we do not want to fight anyone ever again. We want to build something new, a galaxy where strength serves wisdom, where power protects the innocent, where every species has the chance to reach its full potential. The bridge of the galaxy's fist was silent for a long moment. Admiral Moore stared at the tactical displays, thinking about everything he had just learned. His entire worldview had been turned upside down in the space of an hour. Finally, he spoke. You have given me much to consider, Captain Kim. I will need time to discuss this with my government. Of course, but do not take too long, Admiral. The galaxy is about to change with or without the Kalari Empire. It would be better for everyone if you chose to be part of that change instead of opposing it. The communication ended, leaving Moore alone with his thoughts and his disabled fleet. Around him, the human ships waited patiently, their strange blue glow a reminder that the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted forever. 6 months had passed since the Battle of the Eternal Dawn, as historians would later call it. The galaxy was a very different place now. Admiral So-Jin Lee stood on the bridge of her flagship, the New Soul. She was no longer the nervous navigator of a disguised cargo ship. Now she commanded a fleet of 12 Aurora-class vessels, keeping peace in the Outer Rim territories. Admiral, her communications officer reported, we are receiving a distress call from the mining colony at Kepler Station. They are under attack by raiders. How many ships? Lee asked. 15 light cruisers, ma'am. They are demanding tribute from the colonists. Lee nodded calmly. Set course for Kepler Station. Maximum dimensional shift. The New Soul and its escort ships vanished from normal space, reappearing 30 seconds later in orbit around the distant mining world. The raider ships were caught, completely by surprise. Unknown vessels, Lee transmitted to the raiders. You are attacking a protected colony. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. The raider captain responded with threats and curses. These pirates had not yet learned the new rules of the galaxy. It took exactly 4 minutes for Lee's ships to disable the entire raider fleet. No one was killed, but every pirate vessel was left powerless and drifting. The colonists below sent grateful thanks as the human ships departed for their next patrol. Meanwhile, in the capital city of the former Kalari Empire, Admiral Veltok, Moore walked through the halls of the new Galactic Council building. His purple scales had grown brighter over the past months, and he carried himself with dignity, rather than the old imperial arrogance. He was no longer Admiral Moore. The Kalari military had been reorganized, and he now held the title of Ambassador. Moore, representing his people in the new galactic government. Ambassador, called a familiar voice behind him. Moore turned to see Captain Kim approaching. The human wore a simple civilian outfit, though everyone knew he commanded powers that could reshape worlds. "Captain Kim," Moore replied with genuine respect. "I was hoping to speak with you." "Of course. How are the integration talks proceeding?" "Better than expected. My people are beginning to understand the benefits of cooperation over conquest. The younger generation especially is excited about the new technologies you have shared with us." Kim smiled. "And the older generation? They are learning. Slowly, but they are learning." Moore paused, then continued. "I have a question for you, Captain. Something that has been troubling me." "Ask." "Your people spent 50 years preparing for this moment. You developed technology beyond our understanding. You positioned yourselves to defeat any enemy. Why did you choose mercy instead of revenge?" Kim was quiet for a moment, thinking about his answer. "Do you remember the last thing my father said to you at the Battle of Titan 7? He said that humans do not start wars, but they always finish them." "Yes. But do you remember what he said after that, just before he died?" Moore frowned. "I am not sure. It was 50 years ago and the battle was chaotic. He said, 'Take care of my daughter. The galaxy will need her someday.' You thought he was talking about protecting her as a prisoner of war, but he meant something else." "What?" "He knew that Admiral So Young-yoon would someday have the power to reshape the galaxy. He wanted you to understand that when that day came, she would choose to build rather than destroy. That is who humans are, Ambassador. We finish wars by making sure they never happen again." Moore felt a deep respect for the human general he had killed so long ago. "Your father was wiser than I realized." "Yes, he was, and he would be proud of what his daughter has accomplished." They walked together through the council building, passing representatives from dozens of species. The new galactic government was still young and sometimes chaotic, but it was working. Disputes were being resolved through negotiation instead of warfare. "Tell me," Kim said, "what have your scouts reported about the approaching threat?" Moore's expression became serious. "The Devourer fleets are still 20 years away, but we are learning more about them. They are unlike anything we have ever faced. They do not negotiate. They do not retreat. They consume everything in their path. Then we had better be ready for them. We will be. The combined fleets of all species, equipped with human aurora, technology will be more powerful than anything the galaxy has ever seen." Kim nodded. "Good. But remember, Ambassador, our real strength is not our weapons. It is our unity. As long as we stand together, no enemy can defeat us." Across the galaxy, this new unity was taking shape. On the former slave worlds of the Kalari Empire, freed peoples were building new societies with human assistance. In the research stations orbiting distant stars, scientists from dozens of species worked together to unlock the secrets of the universe. Dr. Yoon Seo Choi had established a medical college on the neutral world of Haven. Students from across the galaxy came to learn from the human woman who had helped change everything. Her classes were always full, and her teaching spread the human philosophy of healing rather than harming. Engineer Haewon Park had become the director of the Galactic Technology Council. Under her guidance, the Aurora technology was being adapted for peaceful purposes. Dimensional travel was revolutionizing trade and communication. Food production had increased dramatically using human agricultural techniques. Disease was being eliminated with advanced medical technology. Communications officer Jin Woo Nam, who had once seemed so nervous and frightened, now managed the galaxy's information networks. He ensured that knowledge flowed freely between all species, breaking down the barriers of ignorance and mistrust that had caused so many wars. But perhaps the most important change was happening in the hearts and minds of ordinary beings throughout the galaxy. Children who had grown up expecting war now planned for peace. Young people who had been trained for conquest now dreamed of exploration and discovery. On a small space station near the galactic rim, Captain Kim stood in an observation lounge, looking out at the stars. He was older now, his gray hair having turned completely white. but his eyes still held the fire of purpose. Ambassador Moore joined him at the viewing window. The two old enemies had become unlikely friends over the months of cooperation. "Do you ever regret it?" Moore asked. "Choosing mercy over vengeance?" Kim considered the question. "Do you know what my greatest fear was during those 50 years of preparation? That you would fail? No. That we would succeed too well. That we would become so powerful that we would turn into the very thing we were fighting against. That we would become conquerors ourselves, but you did not. No, we did not. Because we remembered something important. Power without wisdom is just destruction with better tools. Humans learned that lesson the hard way, long before we ever left our home world. Through the viewing window, they could see ships from a dozen, different species traveling peacefully through space. Trade vessels, exploration ships, passenger transports, all protected by the new galactic fleet. "The Devourers will test us," Kim said quietly. "When they arrive, they will try to break our unity. They will try to turn us against each other." "Let them try," Moore replied. "We are stronger together than any of us ever were alone." Kim smiled. "Yes, we are. And that is the real victory, Ambassador. Not the defeat of the Kalari Empire, but the birth of something better. A galaxy where strength serves justice, where power protects the innocent, where every species has the chance to reach for the stars." As they watched, a new ship appeared in the distance. It was sleek and beautiful, clearly built with the combined technologies of multiple species. On its hull were the symbols of the Galactic Council, a circle of stars representing unity and cooperation. "The future," Kim said simply. "The future," Moore agreed. And in the depths of space, the Eternal Dawn continued its eternal patrol, no longer disguised as a simple cargo hauler. It flew proudly as what it had always truly been. Humanity's promise that the strong would always protect the weak, and that peace would always triumph over war. The galaxy had learned the most important lesson of all, that the most dangerous ship was not the one with the biggest guns, but the one crewed by beings who refused to use those guns unless they had no other choice. And in that refusal, they had found their greatest strength.